Hi, Dr. Tamara Harville here to talk to you today about how to write a killer essay and a step-by-step guide. And I'm going to be going through this quite quickly. So I only have 15 minutes to get all this in here. I'm going to be talking fast. You might have to rewatch some of this. I hope not. So let's go. First, before you start writing any type of paper, you need a topic. The main thing that you're writing about. It could be a story that you've been given to read and analyze. It could be a controversial issue. Whatever your topic is, you have to make sure it's narrowed to fit the size of your paper. You don't want it to be too general and boring or too superficial. So if I chose the topic music, that's just something that you could be all over the place for or with. I had a student one time write about purses in general, just all different types of purses. So you really want it to be more focused, so that way it is more challenging. You can include specific examples and specific details, and it makes your essay more effective. So for example, instead of music, I could say how 1940s jazz influenced classic rock. That's much more focused. After you have your topic, there are different ways you can begin. One, you can just start with a list. Just write everything you can think of and just start listing all these things about your topic that you can think of. And then by looking at this list, you can maybe see connections in there of some of the things you wrote about to decide what it is that you want to claim about your topic. And then that claim that you make, that is called a thesis statement. It's the one sentence your entire essay is about. So it has to be where I could pick it up, that last sentence out of the conclusion, read it all by itself, and it makes sense, and it has your argument and your purpose for your paper all right there. So it's kind of a toughie to write. But once you've got a really good thesis statement, the rest of your paper should then be able to support it and explain it and flow quite well. So you have your topic. Our topic is going to be how crop circles are created. I chose this because I'm pretty sure none of you will be writing about it, so I don't want to give you ideas on what to write about. So how are crop circles created? So listing ideas, they could be pranksters. People just going out with a board and squishing down crops to make a big circle. Or aliens, for the conspiracy theorists in us. They're trying to contact us or warn us, or we're just the Etch-a-Sketch background for their kids' laser guns. Or government satellites. Thousands of satellites are out there surrounding us on this planet, so they have to calibrate them. Instead of sending a man up to calibrate a computer for GPS so that we're not turning 16 miles too early, it helps to calibrate it by computer and telling it, let's put this laser and make a little crop circle where there's no bodies, no heat signatures, and play around a little bit until we can get that calibrated. Who knows? Okay, there are two different types of thesis statements. One is where you list your subpoints that your paper is going to write about. If you use this one, make sure that those subpoints are in the same exact order as they are in the body paragraphs of your paper. It just flows better that way. It seems better organized. So for example, crop circles, mysterious and exciting designs discovered in fields around the world, are created by either pranksters, aliens, or government satellites. So by reading this, I know pranksters is the first body paragraph, aliens is the middle one, and government satellites is the last. Notice the order I've put them in. You would think that aliens or government satellites would come first because it's most interesting, but you don't want to give away the most interesting. You want to build up to it. Do you want to go to a movie and have all the action happen up front and then the rest is just people sitting around talking? No, you want it to build on interest. So make your most interesting point your last point so your reader wants to keep reading. Another way you can write a thesis statement is just by making a specific point. While the mysterious phenomenon of crop designs that appear across Europe and North America may baffle some, a reasonable explanation exists. What is that explanation? Well, the whole essay is going to argue that explanation. So that's making that specific point. So you can either, write one or the other, or here's an example where I just stuck the two together. But I did put a picture on here that I'm not sure you would classify as a crop circle, but it shows you an idea of what something like that could look like. Okay, another way you can get started after listing ideas to figure out what subtopics you want is you could cluster ideas with those subtopics. College pranks. What could you say about college pranks? Well, there could be science club challenges. It could be like fraternity, not pranks, but challenges that to get into the fraternity or something. They create designs on paper, and they use boards and they rope and they smash it down. Just all the ideas you can think of. Cluster number 2 about aliens. Are they communicating with us for fun, for a warning, or are we just their background? Are they using lasers or chemical reactions? I read something or saw something about MIT students, and they did a discovery on some crop circles where there was some sort of a reaction, chemical reaction at the root that made the plant just kind of lie down. Or designs on cluster 3 with computers using satellites for GPS to calibrate them, which then means if they can zap lasers to Earth from a satellite, they could probably do it for a war as well and zap enemies off the planet with spontaneous combustion, but that's a little off topic. So how do you stay on topic? Use an outline. Especially for people like me who have ADD, outlines keep you on track. It's best if your teacher didn't give you one, find one. You can Google it. You can go into Word and find templates. You can go to our writing center and find one, or the OWL at Purdue, which is a famous writing center, and find an outline. But by filling in an outline, it keeps your thoughts on track. It helps you organize like a skeleton of what your essay is going to be about. Think of your outline as the skeleton, and your essay is your entire Frankenstein monster. So if your skeleton's really weak, how's your Frankenstein monster going to stand? So by working on this outline and getting it just right, knowing exactly how you're going to order your paper, it just makes your paper flow better. It makes it where it's easier for you to write, because if you get stuck, you can just look down and go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to write about next. So they do keep you on track, and they help you with flow. Your first paragraph is an introduction. This is so challenging for most people because they type in their heading with their name, their teacher's name, the class name, the date. They type in their title, and then they're looking at that cursor go blink, blink, blink on that paper, and they don't know what to write. So don't start with your introduction. Just as long as it's there by the time you're done, you know your thesis statement first, write it. Write your paper. Work on your outline and start writing your stuff, and then figure out later on how you want to introduce it. You don't have to start with that very first word like people like I did who learned typing on electronic typewriters. You had to start with that very first word. You guys have it so easy, so just skip that part if you need and go back to it later. But different things you can do for an introduction are you can create a scenario for us called an anecdote. So I could talk about Farmer Joe going out and finding his corn squished down and then trying to figure out what happened, and then you end up with a thesis statement there that then starts your paper. Or instead of an scenario, you can explain some history of the crop circles. If your instructor allows you to use sources in your intro. Don't use Wikipedia. There are so many different other encyclopedias online. But find sources that will tell you a little bit about it. Like this one says that there are various barley or wheat fields. Who knew? I just immediately came up with corn. So come up with a little history and then your thesis statement. If you're supposed to write about a story, summarize the story a little bit, just enough to tell us kind of in gist what the story's about. And then your thesis can be your analysis of the story. You usually don't want to start analyzing immediately in the introduction, unless the instructions tell you to. Always follow the instructions. Okay, your next paragraph, this is your first body paragraph. It's going to have your topic in it, which was pranks, right? And each body paragraph, you will start with a topic sentence. It's like a mini thesis. Your thesis statement is your one sentence for your entire paper. I should be able to read that by itself and go, I know exactly what this paper's about. Well, your topic sentence does the same for its paragraph. So you don't want it to be like a chronological type thing. You want to make sure every topic sentence starts with every paragraph starts with a topic sentence. So this one, many people feel that crop circles are elaborate hoaxes created by a group of individuals here on Earth. Okay. So we know everything in that paragraph is going to be about hoaxes, and it's going to support it. Everything here is my own words. I'm not using a source. I'm not using a fact. This is only me. Then I bring in support and facts and explanations into those body paragraphs so that they can be developed. Your next paragraph will then be your next topic, which ours were, what was ours? Aliens. So hoaxes and aliens have nothing in common unless the aliens are making hoaxes. But you got to make them connect. Think of your writing like that giant chain of thought. Our brains don't think that way. You have to make the chain work. So if you just wrote about something that does not connect to the next item, you have to connect them for us. Transitions. So you could just say, in contrast to those who feel crop circles are simply pranks, some people claim that they are messages from aliens. Now it's connected those two topics that had nothing in common. Your next paragraph, this one can also transition, and this one's going to talk about the government satellites. So you can write, finally, some individuals feel the crop circles are the result of GPS calibrations from government satellites that circle within the atmosphere. Just the word finally is a transition. Okay, next, and you can write as many body paragraphs as your paper requires or needs. This is just for a typical 5-paragraph one that I'm talking. But your last paragraph is your conclusion. You don't want to repeat everything you just said. You don't want to add sources. You want to remind us what your main point was. Because by now we're only talking about government satellites. We need to be reminded of all those topics or subtopics that you were talking about. Pardon me. It doesn't have to be a huge paragraph. It doesn't have to have support in it and all that stuff. But it does kind of bring back in your general ideas to frame your essay. You can add a judgment, an evaluation, a recommendation, ask a question if you're allowed, just to get your reader thinking, but one that you didn't answer in your paper, something that makes them go, really thought-provoking question there. Okay, revising your essay. Once you're done, you turn it in. No. Revise it. Read over it. Make sure it makes sense. Make sure the thesis statement is a thesis statement and that those topic sentences do connect to the thesis statement and are a topic sentence. Make sure each of those body paragraphs stays on topic and everything in there is all about that one. Make sure you have support, outside sources in there to support what it is you're trying to say and that you're not leaning on them to guide your paper. You're writing your paper and they're supporting your paper. You want to make sure it makes sense. Everything's in the right order. And then you're going to edit it, look for the fine-tuning things. I always suggest if you read it out loud, you're going to find mistakes better, because if you read it silently, you are going to fill in the blanks. Our brains do that. But reading out loud, I'm using my ears, my eyes, and my voice. I'm going to find mistakes a lot easier. Read it backwards, sentence by sentence, to look for grammar issues. Or send it to the Writing Center and ask them to help out. Make sure that you are on point. But check your own grammar and stuff first. Don't just rely on the Writing Center. Look for mechanical errors. If it's underlined in red, find out why. Right-click on it and see what the computer's saying. Transitions, here's a whole bunch of them, but they will help smooth out your paper. I'm going to just pass by this because we have a handout on it and we're running out of time. The title. Why am I putting it last? Well, you may not know how to title it and you don't want to restrict yourself to a title. But a title is just something maybe clever that your topic is about. And capitalize the first letter of each of the words. Don't put it in quotes. Don't put it all in capitals. Don't bold it. Just leave it regular type like everything else in your paper. So for this, I could have crop circles. Meh. Alien contact or elaborate hoax. You don't want to question. The creation of crop circles aren't as baffling as one might think. That's way too long. Riding in the wheat. Harvest of designs. Those are kind of cool. And then citations. You want to make sure that if you use outside sources, you cite every single one of them and you have a works cited page that has that information on there. Make sure that you know the style that you're using, and if you need to, get help from a librarian or from the Writing Center on how to write citations. And we're not going to go further into citations because I do have a tutorial about citations themselves, depending on if they're APA or MLA. Well, I hope this has helped you figure out the gist of what an essay should be, how to organize it, and all that. And yeah, hope I helped.